Welcome inside the Red Wings locker room here at Little Caesars Arena. I'm Daniella Bruce, and joining me today is the Red Wings general manager, Steve Yzerman. Steve, you're a busy man. We appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
The Red Wings roster now looks a little different after free agency opened on July 13th. In what ways do you expect this roster to improve next season?
Well, I think we'll be deeper in all areas. You know, with Ville Husso in net, a younger guy, took a major step in his career last year in St. Louis. I think on game-to-game basis with him in net, I expect to get quality starts and give our team a chance to win every night. Up front, the additions of Kopp, Kubalik, and Perron, give you three experienced NHL players. Just improves our top nine, or even our top. I'm not sure what the lines will be, but I think we have more depth up front. David Perron being a right shot winger gives us another right shot, which will be important for our power play. And then on the blue line, with all the additions on the blue line with Sherratt, Mata, Robert Hagg, unfortunately Pysyk is injured. Potential of Simon Edvinsson making our team even, and even a couple of the younger players, the Swedes, whether it's Berggren, Soderblom, or whoever else. I think we have more depth from top to bottom in the lineup, and you need that through the course of a season.
You mentioned Pysyk's injury. Did you know that when you signed him during free agency?
It happened after.
It happened
immediately
right
after, unfortunately.
Yeah. So Robert Hagg, you're expecting him to at least compete for a spot and kind of add that depth.
Yeah, he's an NHL D-man. Played in Philly, bulk of his career so far. Then to Buffalo and was traded to Florida at the deadline last year. And just a solid defensive defenseman, and plays hard, plays with some physicality, and plays on the penalty kill. So once we get everybody back from injuries, potentially if everybody's healthy, we'll have some decisions to make. But as of now, we like the depth that we have on the blue line, and there will be some competition not only on the blue line, but throughout the roster for spots in the lineup and ice time in the games.
The two deals that stood out to me were the Andrew Kopp signing and the Ben Sherratt deal, only because of the length of the deals. Obviously, they're great players. Andrew Kopp got the 5-year deal. Ben Sherratt got a 4-year deal, which for you, that's pretty long-term. Why were you comfortable signing those two players to longer-term deals?
Well, the reality is if you want them, you weren't getting them without a long-term deal. It's quite as simple as that. Now, Andrew's 28 years of age, just turned 28. I think we're comfortable with the term of the contract. And with Ben at 31, a 4-year deal seems reasonable. Like, the maximum these guys can get is up to 7 years for any player, a free agent from another team. And we weren't prepared to on any of the guys to go that long, but these are kind of midterm contracts, and we think they're reasonable given the players' ages.
And when you look at Sherratt, he seems to play a different style of defense than any player that was on the Red Wings roster last season. How important is it to have a guy that is sort of that stay-at-home, tough-to-play against defenseman?
Well, we're looking to improve our team defensively, like our goals against, chances against, penalty killing, improve that percentage of that. And those are situations, whether it's Olli Mata, Ben Sherratt, Robert Hagg, that's kind of the game that those guys play. They're steady defensive guys, reliable, they're hard to play against. And with Moritz Seider, Phil Hronek on the right side, guys that generate offense, move the puck, get up and involved with the offense. I think these guys complement their style of play, and however the pairings match up, these guys will be good partners for them.
You talk about being tough to play against and improving team defense. David Perron does that, but up front, he's very tough to play against, did well in the playoffs. Even last year, he had 12 points in 13 games. And how well do you think his game will mix with the young talent that you have up front right now?
Well, I think he'll fit in very well. One, again, just being another right shot for us now with Lucas Raymond, Oscar Sundqvist, three right-hand shots. And we've had a hard time finding righties in the 3 years that I've been the GM. It just balances things out. I like the fact that you have left shots playing left wing and right-hand shots playing right wing. It really helps, particularly on the power play. A lot of players like to play their off wing so they can one-time a puck, and we have a lot of lefties. But when we talk about being harder to play against, I don't want to give the impression we're going to go out and fight everybody and all that. It's just being stronger defensively. It's being more competitive, being more responsible. And some of these players that we've brought in have have vast playoff experience and know how to play. If you watched Oscar Sundqvist play for us after the deadline last year, all the little things he did I thought were really important. He played a valuable role for us because he knows how to play. He's been on good teams, been on a championship team, and he knows how to do the little things that make the game easier for your team and also make you harder to play against. And it's, just competing hard, being smarter with the puck, being more responsible.
I'd imagine you had the same thoughts with Andrew Kopp, too. He went to a Western Conference final with Winnipeg, and then last season he went to the Eastern Conference final with New York. So that experience helps there, too.
Yeah, you know what, Andrew's he's a centerman first and foremost, but watched him play in Winnipeg this year, and even with the Rangers, they move him to the wing. He's involved in all situations. He's playing on the power play, different spots on the power play. He's taking face-offs, he's killing penalties. So he's a very versatile, very useful player. Again, his age, his character fit in really well with our group, and I think he plugs a huge hole for us. But I really like his versatility, and number one, being a centerman that will be able to play in all situations, but if needed, you can move him to the wing on him. So I think I'm excited to have him in the organization. The fact that he's a local young man as well, I think is nice. He was excited to come back to Michigan and join the Red Wings.
How about Dominik Kubalik? We have seen in his short NHL career, he came out hot out of the gates in his rookie year, scoring 30 goals. And then his second year, he had 17 goals. Last year, he had 15 goals. So seemed to be a little bit of descending there, but we've seen what he can do at his peak. What is it that you think he's going to be able to do here in Detroit that's going to get him back to that 30-goal scoring level?
Well, if he does that, great. And truthfully, I think he has the ability to score more than 15. I think he's a legit goal scorer. Mm-hmm. He's a big guy that skates well up and down the wing, and he can really shoot it. Why he went from 30 down to 15 in year 3, I'm not really sure. But he looks like he can play in the league. He looks like he can score. I think he'll play well on the power play. I like his size and his skating ability, and we signed him to a 2-year contract, what I think is a very reasonable contract. I hope he can produce more than 50 in a year, but if he does, that's still okay.
You mentioned Ville Husso a little bit earlier, and that was a trade, obviously trading a third-round pick during the 2022 draft. What do you like about the duo of now Ville Husso and Alex Nedeljkovic?
Well, I think they're roughly the same age, I think 26, 27. Both, for NHL games, relatively young in their careers or somewhat inexperienced in the NHL. So I think there's the ability for them to continue to improve and get better. And you saw Ned, come in from Carolina to our team and played 50-something games last year and played some very good games, had some tough nights along with our team, our entire team. And I like the fact that he just battled his way through it and didn't fall apart. I don't think today he's any less confident than he was a year ago. So I think that was an indication that he has some mental toughness and I think you have to be mentally tough to play end goal in this league. So what I do like about the pairing of them, they've got some upside to them. They've shown that they can play in the league and shown good promise. Can either of them take that next step and be a 60 to 65 game starter? I think there's an opportunity for them to do that, and there's potential for them. So I like the duo in that you got two guys that are still trying to prove themselves, that have some upside in the league and have shown that that they can go in and win games on their own if they need to.
So while we're talking goaltenders, Sebastian COSSA, the 2021 first-round pick, was in town for development camp. Number one, I want to know what your impressions were of him from development camp. And number two, now that you've signed Ville Husso to a 3-year deal and Alex Nedeljkovic still has a year left on his deal, do you think that relieves a little bit of the pressure for Sebastian COSSA to be that goaltender of the future, just knowing that he might have a little more time now?
Well, he was going to get the time regardless of whether we sign. He won't play in the NHL till he's ready to play in the NHL. I can't tell you that's a year from now or in March or 3 years from now.
Yeah.
He had a good year in junior this year. It looks like he'll go with Team Canada to the World Under-20 Championships here in August, and we'll see how he does there. But we'll let his play dictate his career path.
So we've talked a lot about the veteran presence, the experience that you're mixing into this Red Wings team. Ultimately, how much does that help your younger players?
I think young players in the NHL need good, solid people around them and solid players to play with to help them continue to improve. All of these players, whether it's Dylan, Tyler, Moritz, any of these young guys, a chance to play with better players in a better environment and then hopefully win more. And I think that it's important to the culture, the locker room, the atmosphere, that you do well, you have some success, and your confidence grows, and you just become a better hockey player.
We're going to talk a little draft now, Steve, and we'll start with your number 8 overall pick in Marco Kasper. There were a few centers that were available at that 8 spot for you guys. Why was Marco Kasper the guy?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of good prospects available. We had good options, and What we liked about Marco's game is, one, his skating ability. You know, I think he's 6'1" and 190-ish as a 18-year-old. He's going to skate well enough to play in the NHL. He's going to be, the size is fine. Strength is not going to be an issue. We think he's very competitive. We think he has good hockey sense, and again, has a chance to be a real versatile player in the NHL. Is that 1, 2, 3 years from now? I'm not sure, but overall, we liked really everything about his game, and I think there is some ability for the offensive part of his game to grow as he, plays another year in Sweden this year, and beyond that, I'm not sure, but we think he's going to be a good all-around player. And does that mean top 9, top 6, first line? Time will tell.
Chris Draper told us a lot about how impressive Marco Kasper was off the ice. Was there anything in particular that stuck out to you during the interview process?
No, the interview process lasts 20 minutes, so it's not a real much of a process. You follow up, you do your homework on all the players. You talk to their teammates, former coaches, the programs they've been. You kind of get a picture of what type of person he is. But we really like his drive. We like his maturity at a young age, and we just think he's a young guy that's driven, that's focused, and very mature, and on a good path. That based on the interview process, that
the 20 minutes,
he's going to do whatever he has to do to make it to the NHL.
Yeah, he looked good at development camp. It was exciting to see him. And another player that I have to ask you about from the 2022 draft class is Amadeus Lombardi, a 4th-round pick. Yeah. And we've heard over and over that development camp isn't for evaluation, right? But you had to be impressed with what he did during that 3-on-3 game.
Yeah, well, the evaluation we do is a lot of off-ice testing to see how much athleticism they have, what areas they need to improve upon, whether it's just pure strength, they're reducing body fat, putting on weight, getting more explosive, improving their skating stride or technique, dealing with any deficiencies, previous injuries, things like that. So there is a whole evaluation of the player, but we're not determining their careers at development camp. But in the scrimmages, he looks like one of those players that you watch him in practice and whatnot, and you're like, he's okay, but he seems to know how to play, and he looked really good on the ice, and the 3-on-3 tournament, he did some really good things. So it's very encouraging. I think he's a 19-year-old, second-year draft eligible, so he's a year older than some of the other kids. But we'll see in a few years, but it was very encouraging to see him out there. And, Drapes was pretty excited when he mentioned his name that we were going to pick him. Told me he had a very good playoff this year, and it looks like he knows how to play the game, so we'll see.
Will we get to see him at Prospects Tournament in September?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you'll see, barring injury, all the kids playing junior hockey in Canada, or really the majority of them are either are signed prospects that are in Grand Rapids this year, or the kids playing junior hockey in Canada. The U.S. kids that are going to college or playing in the USHL with the plans of going to college, they're not available to play in this tournament. And a lot of we may get 1 or 2 of the European kids that are slated to play junior over there. But any of the kids that are projected to be in the men's league will not be able to come over for the tournament or the training camp or the Prospects Tournament.
So you mentioned that Chris Draper was excited to draft Amadeus Lombardi. Was there anybody else? Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say he was excited to draft them all.
No, we know that. But it leads into the question, right? Because sometimes you do, in the later rounds, there's a guy that's still available that you may not have expected to be available for you. Was there anybody like that you were, like you said, you're excited for all of them, but you're like, I can't believe he's there. We have to take him.
You know what, I like the way Chris and his staff put together their list and kind of project what rounds they think, and it's an educated guess where you think guys are going to be. And I would say there's been years when you're waiting there with your pick in whatever round, and you had guys kind of circled for there and they're all gone, or they just get picked right before you. But this year, with each pick coming up, we had kind of a player or a small group of players that we really would have liked for that pick, and with each one, I'm sitting right there with Chris and Jesse and Hawken, who are making the decisions, and they had a group of players with each, as in those later rounds, a small group of players that they would like to choose from. So I think they felt really good about how the draft went, and they had guys that they had on their list, the guys that they had scouted, and prospects that they have hope for with those picks.
Does that almost make it tougher when you have like that handful of players that you like that's available?
Yeah, sometimes it's more so in the early rounds. In your first round, sometimes it's hard. Maybe this year for some of those teams picking 1, 2, 3, or it's like hopefully somebody picks them so I don't have to make a decision here. But so it does make it hard. Anytime you've got more options, it clouds the picture a little bit, and you got to make a decision, and you're guessing which one's going to be the right choice in 5 years. Nobody really knows.
Training camp now is just a few weeks away, really, and we're expecting to see some new faces coming over to North America in Simon Edvinsson, Elmer Soderblom, Albert Johansson, Emil Viro. Correct me if I'm missing anybody there, but those are the prospects that everybody seems really excited to see. What are your expectations for them?
You know, I'm probably as curious as everyone to have them over here and see how they do. You know, we watched Jonathan Berggren last year come over and play in the American League, and we weren't really sure. He really worked hard. He really adjusted to a different style of play and had a really good year in Grand Rapids. So we see what you mentioned, the three guys. They played in Finland in the men's league, in Sweden in the men's league. These are pretty good leagues, and they're pretty competitive. The kids did well. A little different style of play, different size rinks. Can be an adjustment. They all have strengths. They all have some things they need to work on. That goes for any young player, really. So I'm optimistic to see them. I don't know what really my expectation is. I wouldn't rule out for potential them to push for a spot on the Red Wings, but we'll see how it goes.
You haven't seen Simon Edvinsson in a long time, really, since you drafted him until development camp just a couple of weeks ago. What were your impressions of seeing Simon in person?
Yeah, I had a chance to watch, some of his games in Sweden on the internet. I had a chance to see him on TV at the World Juniors that got canceled in Edmonton. Yeah. So again, seeing him live for the first time in a while. He's pretty big. He looks, when you watch him on the ice, he looks kind of thin. I wasn't sure Jesus is going to be strong enough to play, in the NHL or even the American League right now. And you get to meet him off the ice. He's pretty well, he's pretty well built for a 19-year-old. So you look at him and say, geez, I don't know that strength is going to be an issue that might hold him back this year. It'll be just, can you play at the pace? Can you think it at the NHL pace? And we'll see that in the fall. But he certainly has the skating ability, and I think he has the strength to compete at the NHL level based on seeing him here at the prospects camp.
He told us during his availability in development camp that he was 199 centimeters, so obviously I had to do the conversion on my phone. That is 6'6". Yeah. 6'6". Yeah. When you drafted him, sometimes I see 6'4", sometimes I see 6'5", but did he actually grow an inch between his draft year and now?
Possibly. I don't really remember what he was. I just know he's big.
Yeah, he is.
So 6'4", 6'5", 6'6". It's all good. He's very athletic, like the big guy, skate well like that. That's pretty encouraging with, you see Moritz has a bit of that. That length with their arms and being able to just break up plays with their stick. Nick Lidstrom had that. He was 6'1", maybe 6'2", Nick, but he had long arms and a long stick, and it made the game easier for them. And I think Simon has a little bit of that combined with his size and his skating ability. It's hard to get around because he can keep up with you, and then you get a step on him. He's got that length with the stick to just knock the puck off your own stick. So expect him to be a solid defender.
And when he was telling us how big he is, he did make sure that he told us he is not as big as Elmer Soderblom, and that guy is a mountain that likes to score goals. Yeah. I think that was his exact description of Elmer. So that has to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, well, Elmer's, I think he's 6'8".
Yeah.
And very athletic. Like, if he was a track athlete, you might see him as a decathlon guy or decathlete, whatever they call it. He's very big. He's very athletic. When you do this fitness testing, you get a chance to see their explosiveness and some things, and he tests very well. And I think as he goes, 21, 22, 23, 24, he'll just kind of fill out and he can get even stronger in his legs and stronger on his skates, and that will help him. But since his draft year, he's really continued to improve on his puck skills and getting to the net and getting his shot off, and his skills have really evolved. And when we drafted him, we saw, it's a big guy that skated okay and seemed to have some hands, and he's improved that each year. And so we're excited to see him. He's got potential. He's got some work to do, but seems like a really nice young man and has worked really hard, and we're excited to have him here.
So you've got this young talent coming in, and obviously the free agents that we already talked about, and that is going to create a lot of competition at this year's training camp. How can competition amongst each other impact the team?
Well, I think it's good. Like I look at the teams that I played on, the good teams I played on, good players, whether it's in practice and in games, they push each other, they challenge each other, like going and scrimmaging against the Russian Five, like it was hard work. And you got the coaching staff there. They want you. You want ice time in the game. You got to be reasonably effective in practice. And having to go against those guys, you learned a lot. And they made you better hockey players. And so good players around. They're competitive, whether it's in practice and in games. They push each other. You learn from them. You pick up little things, from Pavel or Henrik that they would do. And so overall, it's really good. And I think our guys here, really good athletes, really competitive guys, they welcome it. They like to work hard. They like to be pushed. They like the challenge. And in turn, I think it makes them better individuals. And collectively, we should be, it should make you a better hockey team.
So you've got a new face behind the bench this season too, with head coach Derek Lalonde coming in, and he's filled in his staff a little bit since you hired him. How much have you been in communication with him, and what can you tell us about his vision for his first season as the Red Wings head coach?
Well, we talk, I don't want to say daily right now, but obviously going, once he first got hired, it was pretty daily. We had a lot going on with our draft. He had a lot going on getting settled, and then, interviewing coaches and things, potential assistant coaches, putting his staff together. So we're kind of both taking a bit of a break from it right now, but explain my vision for where we're at as an organization, where we're headed, short term and long term, type of things I value in players, in a team, what we need to improve upon. And I think our thoughts and our ideas are aligned in that. Our expectations of our team are similar. I'll entrust him to coach the team. What I do like in particular is Derek's kind of a career coach. He's coached at every level, been successful, whether it be junior hockey at college and USHL. Did a real good job in the East Coast League for a couple of years, good job in the American League for a couple of years, and now being a part of Tampa staff on 2 Stanley Cup teams. And even the first year he was there, where they have a great regular season and lose it in the first round and going all the way to the finals, gains valuable experience with a lot of really good players, a really good team. I think that you pick up a lot from that, and I like the way he in talking with him, I like the way he wants his teams to play, and so I think I'm excited to work with him. He's a good man, great communicator, very open. So I'm looking forward to working with him. I think he'll be really good. His temperament, personality with this group, and where we're at as an organization, I expect him to do a very good job for us.
What was his reaction to the free agent signings that you made?
Just great. Looking forward to it. He just, I think like why we're excited to have new faces here. Yeah. We're hopeful that it's going to make us a better team, and we'll see. But it's up to the management to get the players and the coaches to coach them. So, and let's hope it all works out.
Steve, I know it, and everybody watching this is going to know that you do not like to put a timeline on the rebuild. But when you have players like Mo Seider and Lucas Raymond, who you draft with your first-round pick, and they make an impact so early, do you get excited about where the rebuild is headed? Does that speed things up a little bit? Not really. I mean, if I could give you an accurate timeline or whatever, I would. Just the reality is you can't. Yeah. We didn't know a year ago that Moritz would have the impact that he did. We weren't sure if Lucas was going to play in Grand Rapids or in Detroit. As it turned out, he played in Detroit. That's great. We'll see how some of the young players, does Simon make our team? Does Jonathan Berger and does Elmer, does anybody else that's in GR, do any of the players that were here on our team last year, some of the younger guys take a step, that potentially can speed things up. So, we'll just continue with the process. We'll look for opportunities. This year we think we had some opportunities in free agency to improve our team. You look at opportunities through trades somewhere down the road that may come up or may not, to try and expedite it a little bit, but we'll continue to see, try to draft well, try to be patient with our young players, and hopefully they get there. So, what really speeds it up is you get a year where 2 or 3 guys move into your lineup, young guys. We saw it probably with last year with Moritz and Lucas taking a step, and coming in makes us a better team. Kenneth Phillips Adina or even Phil Horonik, who's been here for a few years, take another step to have a bigger impact, take on a bigger role. We saw, encouraging signs from Michael Rasmussen last year. Joe Valeno played, sparingly at times, but can he make that next step? If these kids, and that's very possible for them to do that, take another step in their career, that's really going to speed us up. It's just not, trying to sign a free agent every summer to do it. We need our young guys to continue to get better, and we saw positive signs from all those names I mentioned last year, and I'm hopeful that they can all take another step this year and make us better. When you look at the players that you were building this team around, players like Dylan Larkin, Tyler Bertuzzi, Robbie Fabry, they're all 26, 27 years old and crucial parts of this team. Obviously, Robbie is going to have to come off of his injury, but he's done it before, so we expect him to come back. When you look at those guys, that has to be the core that you want to see this success, right? You want to build it around them.
Well, definitely. You know, most of these guys were drafted by the Red Wings. They've been here for a while, but they're, you know, you mentioned Dylan, Tyler, Robbie, 26 years old, 27 years of age. Those guys, right in the prime of their career. You know, we continue to add these younger players into the lineup. You know, the players that we signed, we're hopeful that they're going to be here a while. You know, the free agent, Andrew Kopp's not that old. Ollie Mata's not that old. You know, we don't know what the future holds for them, but try to keep, you know, that nucleus in an age group that, as, you know, when hopefully these younger players are populating our lineup, you know, our veterans, so to speak, are in the prime of their career still. And again, it just, hopefully it all comes together at some point, but it just takes time. And you know, look at Colorado's team this year that won the Stanley Cup. You know, their rebuild didn't start 2 or 3 years ago. It's taken a while from them drafting Gabe Landeskog a few years ago and Nate McKinnon. I don't know if he's in year 9 or 10 or whatever he's in right now. It takes a while to get there.
And last question for you, Steve. You've used the phrase cautiously optimistic when you're talking about this roster and what you're expecting for next season. What would make next year or this year a success in your mind when you're looking back at the season come April, May, or June, whatever that might be?
Well, I'm hopeful that, you know, and you just look at some of the statistics, the goals against, if our power play can, you know, and move up the standings, our penalty killing can move up the standings, we reduce our goals against. All those things should translate to being a better hockey team. Does it translate this year to getting, you know, going from whatever 32 or 31 wins to 36 or 37? I don't know. But if we can improve in all those areas, that generally makes you a better hockey team. And so as long as there's progress, if our young players continue to improve and the group that we, you know, the new players come in can have a positive impact in all those areas I mentioned, I think we're moving in the right direction.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.